Launch the Common Core Standards math instruction with Common Core Coach. The product is available for grades 1 through 12, but we are focusing on the areas of grades 3 through 8 for this training session. Common Core Coach was designed and built for the robust standards of instruction. It is a full year of supplemental instruction as one of the many resources used to teach the Common Core standards. All the books in the series are organized into the 5 domains listed in the Common Core State Standards for mathematics. Each domain unit contains a set of lessons, each aligning to the core standards. Each lesson in a single domain covers all the standards of that domain. This visual shares the design of the program. As you can see, the grade 4 5 domains are listed and taught, each as a separate unit. Each domain includes a review and a performance task for understanding of the standards. The components of the program include a student edition text, and we are careful not to call it a workbook, as this is a teacher-driven instructional tool. The student books vary in lessons as the standards for each grade vary. For instance, grade 3 has 28 lessons, but grade 7 has 31 lessons. There is a detailed teacher manual that includes a Common Core State Standard correlation chart, domain progression charts, and a 2-page lesson plan for each student lesson. There are also 2 appendices, A and B. One is for fluency practice and one to give special detailed information about the standards for mathematical practices. Finally, there's a separate assessment book that includes 5 domain assessments to monitor progress with multiple choice and open-ended questions. There's also one summative assessment, all multiple choice questions. The table of contents in the student book includes the lessons for domains 1 through 5. As stated earlier, each lesson is correlated to Common Core State Standards, and there are multiple icons on the table of contents to identify key features of the text. When you see a gear icon, that represents a problem-solving feature activity. The lightning bolt reveals an opportunity to practice fluency in one or more of the operations. A puzzle piece represents a performance task noted at the end of each domain unit. These icons also appear in the teacher manual and at the top of the designated pages throughout the student text. One of the dynamic features mentioned earlier is the student progression chart at the beginning of each domain. Students view how the current domain content connects to the past and future domains. This is important as students understand where they are in the continuum and provide students with a logical roadmap to math success. Note the blue section will always represent the current grade focus of that text. The student lessons vary in length as the standards require varied support, of course. However, there are always 3 types of lessons in each grade level of the student book. They flow in a logical fashion based on the demands of the standard. They build on prior knowledge from the forerunner domain or from a domain whose content links to the domain at hand. The first type of lesson is the concept lesson. The second is the skill lesson that begins with skill examples and represents tangible parts of the math. The last type of lesson is a problem-solving lesson. It utilizes the 4-step problem-solving processes of read, plan, solve, and check. This is a universal approach to solving problems. The first type of lesson mentioned is the concept lesson. This lesson begins with a concept page noted as Understand. It teaches and explains the underlying concept of the standard. The concept is shown by using a visual, model, or explanation. You see examples of each on the slide. The concept page also explains why the skill works and is always followed by Connect and Skill practice pages. There will always be 2 practice pages for students to show their understanding of the skill for any type of lesson within the Common Core Coach. The second part of the concept lesson is the Connect page. It's instructional and always follows the Concept Understand page. It plugs the concept learned into examples. You'll notice the plug at the top of the page. The examples connect directly to this page in different ways. It may show the same example as the concept page, but spell it out in an actual procedure or an algorithm. Or it may show an application or two of that concept. Notice the way the examples are aligned on the page. The structures share visual interest for the student. The second type of lesson within Common Core Coach is the skill lesson. It starts directly with the skill and works through many variants of its application. There are tools built into the lesson to help students solve problems. All skill lessons are demonstrated by examples. Remember, all lessons will have additional 2 pages of student practice. We mentioned earlier that the Common Core State Standards is made up of 2 parts. The standards themselves, what every student should understand by the year's end, and the second part is represented by the 8 standards for mathematical practices in our text. Mathematics educators use the Standards for Mathematical Practices, or MPS as we refer to in Common Core Coach, to develop concepts and skills throughout the year in the domains. These standards are embedded throughout the lesson to develop student proficiency. They allow students to show their mastery of the mathematical concepts and skills, and the language of the standards are key for teachers to use as they begin to connect the mathematical content within the instruction. Appendix B in the teacher manual will highlight each of these standards and provide key information on them. Anytime that you see a feature box in a student lesson with a try, decide, or check, etc., it will be asking the student to provide information. The same area in the teacher manual of that lesson will highlight a MPS, or Standard for Mathematical Practice, and explain how it is being used. This is a wonderful feature for professional learning as teachers embrace the language and the meaning of these standards for mathematical practice. The third type of lesson in the Common Core Coach Mathematics text is the problem-solving lesson. Although there are problem-solving pages throughout the text and problem activities, these lessons are dedicated to the process of problem-solving. There are 4 to 6 page lessons, including the 4-step process of read, plan, solve, and check. Each step is modeled and the pages are interactive. Students will apply skills to the real-world problem situations. Note this slide or a lesson page that you may be viewing in a book at this time. You will see the problem to read, usually a visual to aid, then a process of planning, solving, and checking to see if the math and the reasoning is correct. The additional 2 pages of practice are evident in these lessons, as well as with additional problems to solve. When you see the 2 pages of practice in each lesson, note that hints are provided. The practice provides students with a chance to practice what was taught in the lesson, and questions are designed to assess the standards arranged from easy to more difficult. You'll notice a variety of question types during the text, such as multiple choice, fill-ins, word problems, short and extended response questions, just like the students would see on the national exam. At the end of each of the 5 domain instructional units, there will be a domain review. This does a nice job of reviewing for the domain assessments that are available. There are 3 pages of questions that cover all standards taught. Multiple types of questions, just as found on the practice pages, are evident here. These can be used to monitor learning as students prepare for the domain assessments that are found in the assessment book. At the end of each domain review, you will notice the puzzle icon at the top of a student page. That denotes the performance task. It complements instruction with non-routine application of the domain skills. It requires students to perform a range of activities from drawing and building to writing, and often asks students to work together to arrive at solutions. Collaboration and critical thinking are 2 key components evident in the Common Core standards. There are additional features to note when sharing the book with customers. Vocabulary is highlighted in the book, and they are defined in the glossary at the back of the student book. There are graphic organizers and tools that are going to be helpful during lessons, and they are referenced at the back of the student book in the Math Tools section. The teacher manual highlights when to use these tools. Speaking of the teacher manual, let's walk through the manual that provides professional learning, details on teaching the standards, and wonderful ideas and strategies for conducting student lessons. In the teacher manual, each domain introduction shares the lesson progressions that he or she will be teaching. The lessons are aligned to one or more of the Common Core state standards. This visual progression contains the lesson content, covering the standards in the lessons from previous and future grade levels. This focus, students can build across the continuum of concepts and skills. It's an ingenious selling feature to tab in your book bag. Invaluable information for teachers and students come from the progression charts found in the teacher manual. Introducing a lesson to students is easy with a 2-page lesson outline for each lesson in the student book. Learning objectives are highlighted in blue and green, blue for concept lessons and green for the objectives of the Connect skill pages. Domain-specific vocabulary, standards, and hints for teaching before, during, and after the lesson are listed. The lesson plan also references these standards for mathematical practice and offers the answer to questions within the lesson. Common errors are listed, and there are fluency practices at the back of the teacher manual to reproduce for students. These are called for specifically on certain lessons within the book. Each teacher's manual of the Common Core Coach includes several practice pages specifically designed to align to the fluencies, as outlined by the Common Core for both the current grade and the previous grade. Fluency plays a major role in the Common Core standards for mathematics. Lessons that align to fluency standards are marked with that lightning bolt icon we talked about previously, and instructions for administering the practice sets are included in the lesson plans within the teacher manual. The Common Core Coach Math Assessment Book is an addition to the program. It's specific to the standards and aligns each item to one content standard. Some items align to one or more of the standards for mathematical practices. Each item is assigned a Webb's depth of knowledge value, ranging from level 1 through level 3. There are answer keys, top scoring responses, and rubrics provided. Our digital assessment will mirror the print assessments. As stated earlier, there are 2 types of assessment, the domain assessments and the summative assessment. The domain assessments vary in length, meaning the number of questions, and this is dependent on the number of standards and lessons within that domain. The last 5 items on each of these are going to be open-ended, constructed response items of rigor.